We're back into moose country, and Warren is up. It's his turn to shoot. He hasn't shot a moose in probably 10 years. He's been calling for the boys and getting people on moose, and now it's his turn.
Life offers no guarantees, but the one thing we've learned for sure is that the time we have is indeed precious. The more time we spend with family, friends, and with nature can make the difference between living a good life and living a great one. Join us on our quest to be participants rather than observers, to learn from our mistakes, to share our successes and our failures as we spend all of the time we have chasing our dreams, fueling our passion, and fueling the fire in the great outdoors. Closed captioning is brought to you by letsrolloutals.ca.
We're battling Mother Nature a little bit, actually some beavers who have cut off one of our favorite hunting spots. And we've come in here for the last couple of days, and we did an expedition around this whole swamp to find the beaver dam. It's about 10 feet high. We came in the first day and we started to take it apart. We allowed some of that water to flow out, and then we came back. It wasn't high enough, or it wasn't low enough. It was still over our bikes. So we're back in again today to see if our bikes are gonna make it. And if they are, then we'll have access to those lands. And if not, we gotta take some more of that dam down. Well, I think we're in business. It's deep though, it's still deep. We could probably
take some more out.
We could take some more out, but it's deep there.
Yeah, I noticed that.
Getting closer.
Diane and I came in here last year, and it's a real tough spot to get through. It's an old cut. They've taken out the bridge, so we found an old trail, and we cut that. We cut some logs to get in here, some deadfall, and I really like this spot. We've seen some fresh sign. There's some fresh trashings down here, so we know that there's a bull in the area. I'm gonna call for a little bit, and Jess is scouting out behind me. He's running camera today, so we'll see what happens. But man, this is some real good sign in here. Okay, Jess has just given me a sign that he sees a bull. So we're gonna pick up here, and I'm gonna go over and see what's going on. Man, that's a good bull. That's a real good bull. He's definitely a shooter. But the wind is going in the wrong, it's going right to him. I don't think this is gonna work, but we'll see. He's confused. He doesn't know whether to come or go, and we're looking at him, and he's looking back and calling to him, but he's just a little bit nervous, and I think it's because of our scent that he's directly downwind of us, and that is not good, especially with critters that have that good of a sense of smell. But you never know. This is definitely a bull I'd like to harvest for sure. Well, I think that's a wrap. We're starting to lose light fast, but we know there's a shooter bull in here. Stay tuned. We'll be right back after these messages.
This segment of Fuel the Fire TV is brought to you by Buck Down Archery. This segment of Fuel the Fire TV is brought to you by JR Wetlands Outfitters.
Hey folks, in this week's Learning Curve tip, we're going to talk a little bit about approaching moose, especially when you're trying to get in for that close archery shot. Now, they do have on the market decoys for moose, but if you don't have a decoy like that, it's simple to make one yourself just from an umbrella. Now, you have to remember that moose have great senses of smell and hearing. The one sense that might be at a little bit to their disadvantage is their eyesight. And so when you're calling in those moose, they're expecting there to be a cow. And if they come into 100 yards, then they want to see something big, and the color of a moose is black or brown. And so if they come in there and they see this, right, it works as double fold. One, you have the umbrella, right, that shields you, and it's a little bit of a camouflage for you, but it's also what the moose expects. They expect to see something big and black, and they can't make it out. And if you add into that realism a moose call like this, a Ken Capling call, right, then this actually could look like a bull that's coming up at them like this. It gives you a little bit of cover for the bow hunter behind, and it makes the moose think that that's possibly a cow or a bull that was making that noise. That's this week's Learning Curve tip. If you're watching this, you probably already know that moose are the largest living member of the deer family, or the Cervidae family. Now, it always amazes me at how different moose antlers can be and how big moose can actually grow, not only in body size, but in antler size. After a bull moose reaches a year old, it starts to grow its antlers each spring. And like white-tailed deer, the size of those antlers typically depends on a number of factors. Nutrition, genetics, and overall health definitely play a part. Once a bull moose reaches its prime, its antlers typically decrease in subsequent years. But a mature bull could have antlers spanning 6 feet. The Yukon record is 75 5/8 inches in width from widest point to widest point. And that brings us to the question of how to score a set of moose antlers. Now, if you're like us, we like to know what our deer antlers score, big or small, and we like to give full credit to the deer for growing those antlers. The growing period for a typical set of antlers is about 5 months for a moose, and that means for those big sets, those antlers can grow about 1/2 inch per day from May to about the end of August. Now, in terms of scoring moose antlers, it's relatively easy. There are only 5 things to consider, 5 measurements that we have to take. The first of those are the number of points, the number of normal points on each side of the antler, the width of the palm of the antler, the length of that palm, including the front brow palm if it has one, the greatest spread from tip to tip, the widest point, and then the circumference of the main beam at its most narrow point as it comes out of the skull. Just for reference, we're going to take a look at this particular bull, a great bull harvested by Jess Bowden, our cameraman. To give you an idea of what this rack would score, you have to consider the measurements. The measurements on the width of this were about 11 inches wide. The length of each palm was about 26 inches. It's got 8 scoreable points on the right side and 11 scoreable points on the left side. And for it to be a scoreable point, it has to be at least 1 inch long and longer than it is wide at the base. Its beams were 7 3/8 of an inch around at its most narrow point, and the overall width after the 60-day drying period was 52 inches from widest tip to widest tip. When you take into account the side-to-side differences, which have to be subtracted of those 5 measurements, this particular bull scores about 152 inches. According to FRO, the Federation for the Recognition of Ontario Wildlife, this particular bull, just under the minimum to be entered into the record books for a modern firearm at 160. This is a respectable bull for sure.
When you consider the Boone and Crockett scoring, which is very similar, the minimum for that is 190. That's a crazy, crazy bull. Now, for the most part, antlers are used for intimidation. The bigger the rack, the more chance that that little bull is going to take off without a challenge. But every now and again, a bull will encounter another bull of equal size, and one of them wants to get the upper hand. Just like what happened to Sean Corbier when he was touring around moose country and he came across two bulls that were doing exactly that. And that was awesome. Just a sight to behold. Great footage, Sean. Thanks for sharing that with us. Stay tuned, folks. We'll be right back.
This segment of Fuel the Fire TV was brought to you by Bait to Go.
Welcome back to Fuel the Fire TV. Before the break, we got to see the raw power in those bull moose. But you know what? Those cow moose are equally as powerful in many ways. And one of those ways is in their ability to retain or keep their bull moose close by when they're in the peak of their estrus cycle. A bull's sense of smell can be his worst enemy as those cows come into estrus, but so can his ears. The aggressiveness of this cow as Warren tries to call this bull away from her is truly impressive. I just can't get over how loud and how consistent that cow was in her calling. If you ever wonder about overcalling during the rut, that should put your apprehensions to rest. We've been very fortunate over the years to harvest some really good bulls, and for the most part, we always know they're coming. Every once in a while, though, you get that one bull who comes in silent. As John Ainsley, our new pro staff for Fuel the Fire, is about to find out, that bull sneaks right up on him and comes to within about 20 yards before John actually sees it through the brush. Great shot, Johnny. This is actually John's bull here, and we're 90% confident that it's the sibling to a bull I shot the year prior because we harvested them both in the same area. We were both super proud to harvest those animals. Since we're talking about being up close and personal, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention a new team member, Rich Wesley. He's a great bear hunter and moose hunter, and with archery tackle at that. Now, Mr. Wesley makes a habit of getting up close and personal, and he does this with this cool creation that I haven't seen before. It's actually a set of wires that has nylon stretched over top of it in the shape of an antler. And when he walks toward these bull moose, they cannot tell the difference between him and a rival bull. It allows him to get super close and personal in on these big, gigantic moose.
I just got my moose, man. Yeah. October 4th, 10 to 8. I just smoked him.
My moose is down. I got him. There's my broken arrow. I'll get the rest of it out. I got a big one, man.
I have a feeling we're going to see a lot more of Mr. Wesley in future episodes. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
This segment of Fuel the Fire TV was brought to you by Wikwemikong Tourism.
Welcome back to Fuel the Fire TV. We're at it again for moose in Ontario, and with none other than pro staff Warren Corbier. He's up next because he spent the last 10 years helping other people harvest their first moose. It never takes Warren long to find a great spot, find great sign, and get set up.
All right, well, we're back into moose country. So we got a strategy today. I'm on calling, Jess is on camera, and we're running a second camera as well with Justice. Let's go. Whereabouts? Whoa. Take off. Whoa.
He's got to be here somewhere.
There he is.
Oh my God, he's bigger than I thought. Oh, look at that rack.
Good one.
That's a big bull, man.
Any good shot?
Oh my God, he's a nice bull. Wow.
First one in how long?
First one in 8 years. Oh, look at that. Oh my God. That's gotta be 50 plus. Nice bull, big animal. Let's get that rack up there, son. Just show people this beautiful specimen here. Oh, it's been a long time.
Yeah, no kidding.
Almost 10 years. So awesome that you're with me.
Oh yeah.
Had a great time.
Yeah, sure.
Maybe we'll head back to camp and get the guys to come and help us. Feel your passion, feel the fire, get outdoors.
Congratulations, Warren. That was a fantastic bull. And if I were to hazard a guess, I'd say that bull's going to score around 160, maybe even enough to get you into the Fro record books. Kudos to his son, Justice, who does a fantastic job on pressing record and holding that camera steady. That pretty much wraps up this week's episode. Remember to follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and our YouTube channel, and also check out our podcast at Fuel the Fire TV. Until next week, remember to fuel your passion and fuel the fire, you gotta get outdoors.